Beautiful lamp. Or tell us about that lamp, the 7-light lily.
Well, you know, you're asking why Tiffany lamps were so expensive. It's sort of important to think about them historically. Tiffany knew Thomas Edison. He was there at the advent of the electric light bulb. His father was the man who founded Tiffany and Company. So Louis Comfort Tiffany himself grew up in an incredibly wealthy milieu. And he was the first person in the history of the world to use electric light as an art form. And so when you had this in your home, you were not only showing that you were wealthy enough to have a beautiful work of art, but just that you were wealthy enough to have electricity in the first place. Because this was not a lamp that could have ever been done with gas or kerosene. You know, the shades are covered and the lights are inside of it. So that's the first thing to understand. The second thing was that Tiffany was, as Larry said, a painter. And so every time you look at something from Tiffany, it's from the point of view of what he was trying to achieve artistically. And this is a piece of lighted sculpture. It doesn't really shed a lot of functionality, you know, light. It's really there to be beautiful. So what did he do? He took bronze, cast it, made it beautiful, and actually if you look at the base of it, it's actually water lilies. And then he combined water lilies with field lilies, which are what the stems are, and then there are these beautiful blown glass shades. So he created created one thing out of two, and created something that people could put in their homes, and it goes with almost every decor.
That's the interesting thing. You can mix contemporary and a little Tiffany. Sure. This would go great in a contemporary home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we've sold them to people who have, you know, poured concrete floors, contemporary homes with glass. We've sold them to people with Gothic revival, antiques, Victorian, I mean, everything.
How much would you say is the most, how many lamps, Tiffany lamps, the collectors that you deal with? Does someone have 10, 20?
Well,
we know of
there are
clients.
a few people who have over 100.
Yes.
100?
There are a few people who have over 100, but a really mature collection, like somebody who's really been at it, is about 25. And that's somebody who's really been
Have you
focused.
ever been offered a whole collection where they say, you know what, Grandpa's in the nursing home now, and we don't have any place for these beautiful lamps, and come in and buy them all? Has that happened to you?
We wish for that every day.
We wish and pray.
And once in a great while, it does happen.
Yeah.
We do buy back from our own clients. That's a large source. So we hope that happens.
Yeah.
What is the allure of the name Tiffany? Tiffany was a high-end jeweler in New York City. Still is, right?
That's true.
But they don't still make lamps. So this was.
They never did.
Okay, who made them?
It was the son of the founder. Charles was the founder of Tiffany and Company, but Louis, the son who was educated in art and became a decorative artist, was the one who produced the Tiffany lamps. So they come under the name of Tiffany Studios. And they were discontinued in its entirety somewhere around 1930. The lamps were only part of his production. His production encompassed many things like bronze work, glass work. Now, in the 1900 exhibition of 1900, Tiffany won the most prizes of any artist.
And this was in Paris. So
right,
the
French and everybody
the French were not
competing.
pleased.
Yeah.
And so that is actually what made Tiffany very famous as a decorative artist. His pieces were put into various museums at that time. Yeah. And so people will vie to own a piece then as well as today. And some of the pieces are not expensive at all. You could buy a Tiffany vase for a few $100s. I sold one to somebody the other day. He called up, he was on the internet, he saw a piece in one of the ads, and he saw it was a few $100s. And he asked me, he says, is it real? And I said, absolutely. And he bought it.
Talk about the real phenomenon, Ben. Something as expensive as this is bound to entice forgers.
Sure.
And talk about that. Someone comes in and they found the Tiffany lamp in their attic, and they about want to sell it to you, and they, like the Antique Roadshow kind of thing. And then you look at it. What are you looking for to authenticate that it's a genuine Tiffany lamp?
That's a great question. First of all, although there are always surprises for us and variations on the theme, specifically with the lamps, we pretty much know everything that was ever made at this point. Although a lot of the documents were destroyed when the Tiffany Studios had a fire towards the end of its production period, we still have a lot of original sales catalogs. And so, for instance, this 7-light lily, you know what it's supposed to look like. You know how the base is supposed to be cast. So the first thing you look at is say, is this a lamp that I recognize? Is this a model I recognize?
Okay, if it had one that had Donald Ducks on it, you'd know that probably wasn't going to be
exactly.
real.
They made them with 7, 10, 12, and 18 shades. If someone had one with 9, you'd know either it was a 10 light that somebody had pulled a stem off of, or it was a fake. You know, and then you start to use your powers.
Have you had fakes? Have you had people bring you lamps
all the
that
time.
were fakes?
I would say we probably reject 30 fakes for every one real that we see.
Really?
Oh, sure.
And how are the people deflated when they come in with Grandma's
lamp?
Yeah,
it's pretty depressing.
Yeah, it's depressing.
And it's hard because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And sometimes they have a legitimate old lamp. It's just an American lamp that was made by the bank.
But there's a way that the public just says any old sort of shaded lamp is a Tiffany. It's not.
That's true.
But what you're saying actually points to how famous Tiffany really is. That any leaded glass lamp that looks like it's a Tiffany lamp is quoted as a Tiffany lamp. It's like calling something a Xerox instead of a photocopy.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the essence of collecting. There are important points in collecting, Larry. Tell our viewers how important is condition.
It depends, actually, for the condition, whether or not you can find pieces that are in perfect condition. In some areas where the pieces were dug up from the ground, and only from the ground, if they were damaged and broken, that would be okay to collect because that's the only way you can find them. However, with what we sell, we look for perfection. And almost everything we do sell is in perfect condition. So if one is collecting Art Nouveau, which is our field...
This is Art Nouveau. How do we define Art Nouveau? Or what would you say?
Basically, 1890 to 1914. After World War I, you get Art Deco. It's the same difference in style between Louis XIV and Louis XV and Louis XVI. Art Nouveau was very florid. It had lots of curves. It's very sexy. It had a sort of a Baroque feel to it. And then the pendulum swung, and it got more strict and rectilinear. And you think of Art Deco, you think of geometric forms. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference between Art Nouveau and Art Deco. Okay. And really, it really happened right around the turn of the century, and it happened in lots of different countries. We had it here with Tiffany and Frank Lloyd Wright. They had it in France. They had it in England, and it was different in every country.
So you didn't finish your story, though,
yeah,
so I interrupted you. Where were we? We were talking.
Hell if I remember.
Does this train of thought
we talking
have a
about singing?
All right. Well, let's keep going. So
we were talking about condition. Basically, if you want it to be in great condition, but it has to be, as Larry said, realistic. These are things that are 100, 110, 120 years old. And if you have a leaded lamp that's got 360 pieces, there are going to be a few cracks. What you don't want is replaced glass. What you don't want is things that have been reconditioned and rebuilt. Right. And we try to only sell things that are what you want.
Okay, so condition is important, and a little change in condition decreases the value of an antique substantially.
It certainly can.
It can. Let's talk about the dynamic of when couples come into the store. Husband and wife comes into the store. Who's usually making the decisions about these things? You've got lots of experience at that, Larry.
Well,
you take that one.
I have a little saying that keeps the marriage together. It's called yes, dear. So generally speaking, if the wife in that particular family is the one who makes the decisions, and you look for that, and he's saying yes, dear, then you know you're selling to the wife. And then you have to make sure that she picks the price range that the husband would like to be in. If you can make all those things happen, you probably have a sale.
The husband's more price sensitive generally. Is that fair?
Traditionally, it's been the man who's earned the money. Although my greatest fun is actually when I get to sell to women for themselves.
Right.
Because there's nothing for me. There's nothing sexier than a woman who comes in, tries on a bracelet like this, and says, "Man, I love this bracelet. How much is it? It's $16,500. Well, I'm an executive. I have my own company. Give me a discount. Okay, I'll buy it." And she wears it right out the door.
Why is that one $16,500?
Well, mostly because it's beautiful. That's the first thing. The second reason...
Is it gold?
It's gold. It's 18 karat gold. It was designed by David Webb, who is one of our best American designers. And it's incredibly chic. It's a piece of jewelry a woman could imagine wearing.
Let's get a tight shot on that. Hold that up. Just hold it still for a second, and we'll come in tight on it. Okay, this was designed in the 1930s?
No,
or?
60s.
60s?
Not even that old.
Okay.
It just works very well with, I think, how women want to be seen today. I find that fussy jewelry that's got a lot of gemstones and stuff going on, is a little harder for women to wear now than something that's all gold.
Simple, yeah.
Yeah, it's got a feeling, and it's also got a sort of a powerful feeling. It's not a diminutive piece of jewelry like this, for instance, which is a smaller Victorian piece of jewelry with garnets and turquoise. What's cool about this is that it's got a snake in the middle. And this has a more what I would call beautiful.
And
and
how
this
much
is
would
powerful.
something like that be?
This is around $25,000.
All right, talk about price for a second.